Hi, everybody. It's Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for Joni. Hi, Joni.
Hi, Moo. I love it when you call me that. It's so special now that she's no longer with us. It's just
That's right. I mean, you're carrying on a tradition, a tradition of mediocrity, but it's a tradition nonetheless. And somebody has to be Joni from Happy Days, and you know. Hey, but I mean, I'm not, if I had to be somebody from Happy Days, you know who I'd be.
the guy with the red hair. What's his name? Ralph the Mouth.
No, not Ralph Malph. No. I'd probably be the guy who took over for Arnold, who ended up on. No, the guy who took his place on the show.
Oh.
Yeah, I forgot the character's name.
You guys got that,
Yeah, he's fat, so, that's about as close as we're going to get. Well, all right, today we talk about a bunch of things. We have, before we get into the whole Browns, should I start? Yeah, let's start with the Browns thing, and then we'll talk about Cavs Media Day. And then we'll talk about a little bit about the Tribe. The Browns. Have I changed my mind? I went back. I want to point out to everybody before we even begin that I did not watch any other football game with the exception of the Browns. All these other games I didn't watch a split second of because I'm sick of the NFL and I don't care about it. And my picks represented it. I went for ridiculous low percentage picks and paid the price. But we will say who is doing well in the league, all right? So that we'll give them their just due. Second coming of Dwayne Bowe, 32. Ms. Bouchel's Bay, 31. T. Swain, 31. Big Lurker, 30. Jennifer, 30. Pure Rage is up at 30. He's trying literally to save his spot in the league. Shake and Bake at 29. Visit Puerto Rico at 29. North Dakota Bison at 29. Arbus with 29. Mogambi at 29. And I'm all the way down in the middle of fucking nowhere with 26. And and you are at 19, and we all have just basically gone to hell. Now, the Browns. This will say everything. You ready for the story?
Ready.
Hugh Jackson says the Browns winning now is something you've got to talk to the executive team about. This is what great leaders do. They run and hide. Asked if the Browns can win now, here's what Hugh Jackson said. I think this team can. I think we've got to do things better and work a little harder in making sure that we do some of the detailed things right. The question you just asked, that's something you've got to talk to the executive team about.
Like, is he talking about the front office or like?
Yeah. He's talking about Sashi Brown and Podesta and Barry, and he's talking about him. So basically, what he's saying is, I'll rephrase this, okay? Asked if the Browns can win now, Hugh Jackson said, "What y'all looking at me for? What you looking at me for? You ask them those white fellas, and there's one black fella in there. Oh, actually, there's two black. Well, whatever. You ask them because I got nothing to do." All right,
I love how your black voice is always just some kind of ignorant Southern something.
Well, it would fit Hugh Jackson. I mean, the play calling. I mean, it's like, we're not going to ask you if you can win now, Hugh, because quite honestly, the answer is no. We know you can't win now because you don't have any players, but what are you doing to make it better? And the answer is nobody can see anything that Hugh Jackson is doing to coach these players up. He's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer, and we see interceptions. He's supposed to be an offensive guru. We don't see creative play calling. What we see instead is chucking the ball up the field to receivers who can't catch the ball. That's what we see. So I don't know.
Yeah, I like the one play that worked, and Beth Mallins, she's like, oh, and one of Hugh Jackson's crazy trick plays. I'm like, that was luck, lady. That was a pure lucky play is all it was.
Yeah, and Bo Returns is in the chat room. Hi. All right, go ahead.
No, it's just, you're right. There's nothing that sets them apart offensively whatsoever. And how many picks did he have yesterday? Just 2, I think. Wasn't too bad. Got rid of the ball a little more efficiently, but when he throws it downfield, what's he do? He throws it wide open to the opposition.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad, and it's that isn't something that's overcomable either. I'm sorry, inaccuracy is not, and we talked about this, but they drafted him. I mean, he makes bad throws every game he played at Notre Dame. If he were an atheist, he couldn't hit touchdown Jesus. Let's put it that way. Okay, he's not accurate. Notre Dame, he would make these bewildering throws, and it's the same thing now. He winds up like Satchel Paige, and he just wings it, and sometimes it just goes 4 yards in the wrong direction, right into the hands of a defensive player, and the receivers are open when it happens. It's really weird.
Or he throws it behind them. He's notorious. He throws it behind them every time he chucks it, or he'll throw it into triple or quadruple coverage. Like there's not 2 open receivers on the other side of the field.
It's mystifying. The whole thing's mystifying. And the other thing is, you'll notice that some balls lead the receivers way too much because they didn't get out into the pattern. He threw the ball where they were supposed to be. They just never got there. There's a ton of that. It's really to the point where, seeing as how I've eliminated all NFL viewing except the Browns, it's not going to be hard for me to take the final step here. This isn't a professional product, and it's not something that anybody should be proud of, or it's not something that anybody should be looking forward to either. I mean, I remember when I was younger, back when the Browns had, Kozar and even Sight before that. I mean, Sunday's something you really look forward to, because there aren't but 16 NFL football games, and it's only once a week, and it isn't asking too much of a fan to dedicate one day a week to watch their team play. It's not like, your 162 games of the Tribe, or the 80, 82 games of the NBA. It isn't that. It's 16 lousy games, and you should be able to do that and be able to look forward to it. But I honestly, it really feels like work. I feel like I'm only watching because I said I was gonna, and that I have to talk about it, and I have to be at least cogent about what I'm saying, or else I'll be exposed that I didn't watch the game. And
watch the 8-minute highlight reel that the NFL puts up on YouTube every week and gotten the complete gist of that game.
The Cliff's notes.
Because I watched the Sunday Ticket on the phone while I'm at Junior's game, and I'm paying attention to both, mostly looking at the field and checking the phone. I'm not staring at the phone and checking the field. And when it came down to the fourth quarter, I was like, what am I doing? And my husband was like, I can record it from here. What? Yeah, I can record the rest of the game so you can watch it when you go home. I'm like, oh, perfect.
Unfortunately, I don't have that option. I got to come on at halftime, and I got to come on right after the game. And, and sure enough,
from 7-year-old baseball, you would have an excuse.
From 600 to 300 to 150. That's what the postgame show has done in 3 weeks.
It has to do with people are just as frustrated as you are.
I don't care.
It's exhausting to watch. It's almost even more exhausting to talk about.
Why? I was looking outside. It was a beautiful day yesterday, and I said, and looked at my wife. So, we could be out riding the bikes. We could be, enjoying the fresh air. And instead, I'm cloistered inside, watching this rubbish, and it's infuriating rubbish. It's not just rubbish. It's infuriating. The ineptitude. I mean, it was incredible. The one play where the Browns, they went for it on 4th and 2, allegedly, and they were just waiting for the Browns to jump off sides. And of course, the Browns obliged them. The announcer says, it looks like they're going to go for it. I got up from my seat because I was going to go to the bathroom. And I turned to my wife and I said, yeah, they're going to get the Browns to jump off sides. And I went into the bathroom and they jumped off sides. I mean, it's infuriating. I mean, it's like the most remedial errors and the most predictable outcomes. And again, there was another ball, this time that Jacoby Brissett threw straight up in the air, just like Roethlisberger did in week 1. And there were 2 Browns right there, and McCourty let his man run by him, and he was running with his back to the ball, overran the ball. The ball was 3 yards underthrown, and their receiver catches it, and our 2 guys are running in the wrong direction. I mean, it's like repetitive remedial mistakes. And you can't say it's because Hugh Jackson called a lousy game or because Greg Williams prepared the team wrong in the first half, or you can't blame anybody except they're just a bunch of rotten players. I mean, they're the lowest level, lowest rung players, and you have to believe they're intentionally doing this to lose, to get more draft picks. And
why? They don't do anything with their damn draft picks.
Look, I know. But I mean, it is self-perpetuating, and, it's a sickness of sorts, and it's really a sickness to watch it. And I understand all of the people who have jumped off the ship and say, I just watched 3 hours of this. I don't want to watch Mr. Moohead's eulogy again, the Sunday eulogy. I don't want to watch it. I get it. I mean, I made a promise that I do the damn shows, and I regret being a fan because the organization is doing nothing to retain its fan base. They're doing nothing on a positive level. And the worst part of it all is that the owner hides, the front office hides. All we see is that shiny bald head of Hugh, and he's full of shit. He's just a guy who will just talk, and it's meaningless nothingness coming out of his mouth. And, there is nothing to be optimistic about here. There isn't a player on this team who is a breakout star player. There's nobody that you can say out of all of the picks that we've had in God knows how many years, there isn't a single one of these people that we can say, wow, this guy's really going to amount to something. Not Corey Coleman, not Rashard Higgins, not free agent Kenny Britt, not Njoku, none of them. There is not a single player. If you look at the other draft picks, Ogba, no. Danny Shelton, no. There isn't a single young Joe Thomas on this team. Somebody that you can say, now that's a building block. That's position, assuming that person stays healthy. We've got, Jamal Taylor. I mean, and he looks like Jerry Lewis. Hey, lady. And he's running around with his arms flailing around. He has no fucking technique whatsoever. I mean, these are people that we have acquired from losing organizations. McCourty is 30 years old and a bum. I mean, it's just embarrassing. Jabril Peppers. I mean, you line up 25 yards from the line of scrimmage, and he has to run in, and he has to take the right angle, and he doesn't. Right? I mean, he didn't play. We draft these people, and it's like, what position does he play? Well, he doesn't exactly play a position. He can play a little safety. He can return some kicks. He can, It's like you just wasted a high draft pick on a guy who doesn't have a specialized position. I mean, and then you're surprised when he takes the wrong line to make a tackle against a T.Y. Hilton, a real professional receiver. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are expectable results. I mean, this is what you expect. If you have a brain in your head, this is what happens. This is the outcome. And we always seem so amazed and surprised that somehow it didn't work out. Like Kaiser. We're so surprised that he's not accurate. It's like, why are you surprised? He never has been. He wasn't in college when he had a window that was 3 times larger than what he's got now. He was completing 58% of his passes when he had that wide window. Playing against Naval Academy and against the Air Force. I mean,
Notre Dame gets the weirdest schedule because they refuse to be part of the conference. So, of course, he's not playing anybody who's going to be playing football for a career.
No, I mean, so why are we surprised? Why are we surprised by the outcome? I mean, and it's really amazing when you look at it position by position. It's like, who are our good players? And we don't have any. Duke Johnson is going to be broken in half by 2 more weeks. You know, his body does not hold up. He's already walking like an old man after 3 weeks. I mean, he is, you know, Jim Kick from the old Dolphins. He's not Larry Zonka. He's not the guy who's an every down back. And Crowell, you know, he's seen his payday go to hell in a handbasket, and so he doesn't give a flying fuck. And it's kind of obvious that they give him the ball just to shut him the fuck up the first 3 plays of the game, and he gets buried. Then it's like, okay, Hugh says, see? And then he doesn't get the ball for the rest of the game, right? And Duke Johnson plays. It's like there's nothing healthy going on with this team. Nothing healthy at all. It's not healthy to watch it. You get angry and frustrated watching it. I mean, it's, you know, at least if you go see a lousy movie like, you know, Amazon Women of the Jungle, you know you're not going to get an Academy Award winner. I mean, you know, you sit there and go, well, you know, that's what Amazon Prime fucking gave me tonight. You know, it's like, and that's that, you know, it's like,
and it's been like this for 17 years. It's just so old. Half my life has been wasted on this garbage team, this garbage company.
But the bad movie.
Tried to do anything
the bad movie doesn't put you in a bad mood. I mean, it's infuriating. It's infuriating watching the Browns play. Your blood pressure goes up. You get angry. It's face palm after face palm. I have like indentations in my face. I'm so humiliated and embarrassed that the basic cognitive reasoning is abandoned. I mean, it's hard to watch. And it's hard to analyze something that is beyond analysis.
Right.
Players just aren't good enough. I mean, you know what it's like? It's like in the Little League World Series, you know? Do you remember the old days of the Little League World Series when they actually let all the teams in the world play instead of, you know, turning it into the Donald Trump Invitational? Yeah, you know, and there would be, you know, a Chinese team, and it wasn't just Taiwan. It was the China team, and then there, you know, the Japanese team, and you know, and they've rigged it now, so an American team is always in the finals, and yada yada yada. But that before, you know, there would always be a matchup like China, who lied about the player's age, right?
Yeah.
Because they're little people to begin with. And so they, you know, get away with 13, 14-year-olds playing. And, you know, and they play a Scandinavian team like Denmark. And it's like, you know, no, what's the baseball? You know, it's like, and they would, the mercy rule, you know, would jump in after 3 innings. And, you know, that's what this feels like. That second quarter onslaught by a lousy Colts team, it was like mercy rule this goddamn thing. I mean, we're not even prepared to play. We're just like the Denmark team against China in Little League. I mean, we're not equipped. There's no analysis necessary. You know, we're the bad news bears before they got good. We're just a rotten bunch of average, below average athletes. You saw how slow we were when T.Y. Hilton took it to the house.
Yeah, they made T.Y. Hilton and Frank Gore look like they used to, you know?
Yeah, I mean, our guys are just slow. It's just, there is no way this team can win a football game. And what happens in these situations is that they come to understand it. Once they realize how bad they are, then the effort even stops. And just like you saw the quit in the second quarter, where they stopped making tackles. They just let people break tackles. They just let the quarterback run into the end zone twice. They didn't even pursue him. The one play where the quarterback ran the ball into the end zone, Agba, instead of containing the quarterback on the outside, just ran into the pile safely so that he didn't get hit. I mean, to me, he'd be gone. He'd be gone off.
Like trying to make a tackle, and none of them could stop him.
Yeah, I mean, it's pathetic. I mean, everyone wants Kenny Britt gone. I want Emmanuel Agba gone. I mean, if you watch the play and you say, my God, it's a boot. It's a bootleg for crying out. He's looking downfield. He sees nobody, and there's no outside containment. And then you realize it's your defensive end who had containment, and he ran to the middle of the field to find a safe place to lay down. I mean, it's not doesn't understand where he needs to be on the field. It's a lack of effort. It's a lack of meanness. It's a lack of aggression. And God damn it, I don't watch the NFL, any other NFL games, because I hate the game now. And I even more so hate the game because of the political overtones. So we have certain black guys who are the enemies of the people because they kneel. You've got a Hispanic guy from the Steelers who now is their hero because he stood at attention for the national anthem. And, it's like, it's poisoned. It's like the well is completely poisoned. I can't even watch a fucking sporting event without the poison of the political situation in this country seeping in and ruining the event for me.
You know what? You can blame the president too, or the social situations that are happening for that, but none of this would have been happening if we still didn't even watch the national anthem. If it wasn't even an issue, they didn't start showing the national anthem. Players didn't start taking the field for it until 2009, when the NFL paid a shit ton of money to make it look like they were patriotic.
Of course.
And that's, if that hadn't have happened, if none of this, the same league that was fining players for putting commemorative things on their shoes for 9/11, they'll fine them for that. But then you want to go ahead and tell them that their political opinions are, absolutely part of their right on the field. I mean, it's mind blowing how back and forth it all really is. And the entire message has been completely lost in the mix, and the conversation has turned into something completely unrelated, and it's a damn shame too.
Let me tell you a story that I think, and because, all the NFL owners immediately jumped on the bandwagon, and, they're only interested in lining their pockets with money, just like the politicians are interested in lining their pockets with money. Many, 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 many decades ago, when Art Modell was the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and yes, I'm going to utter his name. My father had an opportunity to come in contact with a person of elite standing in Canton, Ohio. And part of the...
Did he throw women off of balconies? Or is it somebody else?
Say what?
Did he throw women off of balconies, or was it someone else?
No. I mean, this is a person who was in the social circle, because Art Modell and Art Rooney were in this, for all the rivalry overtones, we're all part of a social set. And if you knew Art Modell, you knew that he was a guy who came to own the Cleveland Browns with less money in his pocket than he claimed to have. And he made a name for himself, and he got to be a big man on campus within certain social circles. My father met a woman who was a socialite, who was part of that inner circle. and said without equivocation that Art Modell and Art Rooney were anti-Semitic, that they were racists, that they were bigots. This is nothing new. In the NFL, it's nothing new. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a reason why there were no black quarterbacks in the NFL. Michelle, there was a reason. I mean, it isn't that, it just came out that way. I mean, this has always been a racist league. That we can look at Art Shell. In the 1980s, he was the first black coach. The 1980s. Mm-hmm. Did you realize that the baseball color thing was, what was it, 1957? No, I'm sorry, 1947 with Jackie Robinson, right? I believe if you go back and look at Art Shell as the first black coach, and he was the Oakland Raiders, I want to say that was 1982 or 83. I mean, we're talking about Stone Age mentalities here. And they're the ones who are now saying, oh, well, we're all about diversity. It's like, bullshit, you're about diversity. You've never been. Your league hasn't been a league of opportunity. You make billions of dollars off minority people getting brain damage and dying early. This is not a good thing. And I don't, and I get sick of the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, well, we just saw that what Donald Trump said isn't going over well with a lot of our fans. We've got to step in now and protect our investment. I mean, now the players are going to lock arms and the owners are going to say that shows unity. Unity amongst men who are dying at 57 years of age and just pissing their lives away without an education. That's what the NFL is. It's pathetic. And that has nothing to do with Trump. That's a reaction to Trump. Trump wants the game even more devastating and violent because Trump hates people. He's an elitist. He's an elitist. He doesn't like people. He likes himself. He loves himself. But realistically, what sacrifices has he ever made for anybody else besides himself? None. So the NFL is protecting its own interests. Trump is protecting his own future interests as far as his family business and name. And he's giving rah-rah speeches to rile up the wrong factions just to keep himself on the front page. And he's doing a Huey Long populist shtick. And I can't watch a fucking game now without being poisoned by this message. And when I looked at, at the Spoda page, on the internet, and I am looking to prepare the show, I have to sift through this garbage. He's got the number one Villanova as the number one selling jersey now because he stood for the national anthem, and it's like, who gives a fuck? I'm watching an athletic event.
Yeah, and then people are like, boycott the NFL. But yeah, let's spend a bunch of money on jerseys and T-shirts that literally goes directly back to the NFL. You're not supporting this man personally. You're not supporting any of, who knows? I honestly don't know much about him. I know that he's an Army Ranger. I know that he's a veteran. Who knows what kind of charities he has, because, I avoid the Steelers like the fucking plague. So I really don't know what he does personally, but I'm sure as a veteran who has a platform and the ability, he probably gives back to his community. I mean, do something proactive. This is my argument every October when we start wearing pink, and it literally does nothing proactive for women who
Hi,
are...
Piglet. Piglet Ziffles is in the chat room. It's nice. Nice to see you, Ziff. It is. It's nice to see him here. Yeah. And yes, he is a narcissist, and we agree on that. But I think that there is, the thing that makes it amazing is that people will try to appear pious by now taking exception to what Donald Trump says to try to put themselves in a better light when they're fucking killing people. I mean, I don't really get off on this. And anyway, I don't want to even think about it when I watch a sporting event. I want to be able to talk about what happened on the field, not, all this other crap.
Yeah, it's exhausting. You can't even watch the game because you know what? Yesterday during the game, my husband and I got into such a huge fight, and then it continued on through the evening. And then when we were at our bowling league in the evening and the Sunday night game come on, it just started all over again because he's in his military mind frame where he really thinks it's about the flag and about the troops, and he doesn't understand what the message really is, and he doesn't grasp that they're trying to start conversation about social injustice and people literally being murdered.
Well, I was told leave the country. Leave the country. You because My
mother and I got into it yesterday on fucking Facebook. I mean, it's like you guys they don't get it, but let's fight about something that's completely unrelated to the topic because you're mad.
No, here's the deal. I've come to a conclusion about this because, anybody with a rudimentary knowledge of American history would know that acts of dissension, which emanated from the Boston Tea Party, the reason that we are who we are, not what we've become, but we were who we were, was because of taxation without representation. We were being taxed by the British government on things, and the people here didn't want to be owned that way without having a piece of the action, so to speak, as far as deciding representation. And rather than being treated like a colony, they wanted to be independent. And so the ultimate act of defiance, they threw the tea into the Bay of Pigs, and then Kennedy got involved with Cuba. Well, at any rate, the bottom line is anybody with a rudimentary knowledge of American history would know that acts of defiance, that is the creation of our country. And defiance doesn't really state whether you're right or wrong. Defiance is part of reacting to a totalitarian situation. And if the totalitarian choice is you either get the fuck out of the country or you fall in love with the flag and just fawn all over the flag, even though the government is doing things that are unethical behind the flag, then that is a totalitarian thing. That's no different than Tiananmen Square, where the guy laid down in front of the tank in China. It's an act of defiance. And one person, or Mahatma Gandhi refusing to eat, is an act of defiance. Now, you could sit there and say the guy in front of the tank was right or wrong, but acts of defiance, what they do is they mobilize thought. It's no different than the activists who railed against the Vietnam War after it became ancient and we weren't getting anywhere and we were slogging through a non-winnable situation. And there came a point where the Archie Bunkers of the world became fewer and fewer and less loud. And that was their attitude. America, love it or leave it. If you don't like it, get the hell out of here. That was the totalitarian view of the right wing in the late 1960s, early 1970s. And yes, maybe it took students to get shot at Kent State. Maybe it took a lot of bad things. But you know something? It starts with acts of defiance. And from there, the country will decide whether the people who are defiant are right or wrong. In the case of Vietnam, Nixon ends up with his tail between his legs, declaring peace with honor, whatever the fuck that meant. It means we're getting the fuck out of here because we're not winning, okay? That's what it meant. And it was because people started refusing to go. They started burning their draft cards. Now, nobody likes burning flags and burning draft cards, but God damn it, acts of defiance get attention. And you build, if there's a sense of justice in what you're doing, in the end, that justice will be realized. All these folks with the flag and what the big military want to do is stuff this down your throat. It's propaganda. All military juntas, whether it's in Central America or anywhere else, it is always laced with propaganda and it is totalitarian in nature. It is not democratic in nature. So do I think the players are right? I mean, do I think there's injustice? Yes. Do I think that there is a problem with race in our country? Yes. There's a huge divide. And do I think that football players can solve it? No. Do I think that kneeling on national television during the national anthem does anything? I think it's brought up attention and it's created divisiveness amongst the totalitarian side and the other side. But we're not talking about it. We're beyond the point where we can talk anymore. I would like to see more athletes, instead of these standing in numbers kind of play acting things, that there would be more social awareness of going into their neighborhoods, and instead of posing on national television, I wish that there was more behind the scenes, like in their everyday lives thing, because where is all of this when the 16 weeks are over, or 17 weeks of the NFL are over? Where do these people go? And the answer is, you get the impression that they're just taking advantage of TV ratings. And I just see a lot of disingenuous behavior on both sides of the fence. And there's a better time to deal with these political realities. I just get bored as hell when it's just thrown at me and I have no escape. I don't watch CNN anymore. I don't watch Fox News anymore. I don't go to these sites anymore. I don't go to forums like that anymore. I don't do it. I skip articles that discuss, Trump attacking sports or attacking the NFL. And look, I know that Trump has an axe to grind with the NFL because he wanted to buy a franchise in the 80s and they wouldn't let him. Okay. Trump is predictable. He's predictable because he's an elephant. He never forgets. And anybody who turned him down at any time in life for anything, it's the mental Rolodex. Okay. And that person is an enemy for the rest of his life. The NFL is a bad guy to him because he couldn't buy his way. He got into the USFL and he bankrupted the USFL with a bad lawsuit. And it was all done to try to bring the NFL to its knees so that he, Donald Trump, could own an NFL franchise, and they told him to fuck off. They did not like him then in the 1980s, and they don't like him now. He had the money, he had the name, the exposure to buy an NFL team, and they didn't want the baggage that comes along with him because he's bad fucking news. So that's why he's mad at the NFL and why he's bad-mouthing the game. It's because he's bitter over what happened 30 some odd years ago. That's why. I mean, there's an explanation to everything. But it isn't about furthering his comments about the flag and this and that. This is his way of just getting back at the NFL for what they did to him. Just like he's still talking about Hillary Clinton. I can't imagine why. She is such a passé thing. And when I see her bitching and moaning, I just go away. Mm-hmm. I don't want to read her shit either. Just go away. I mean, why is he still talking? I mean, McCain's going to be dead in less than a year. I mean, because McCain isn't going to follow him down the shitter on this healthcare thing? I mean, what? You called him a coward. You said he's not a war hero because he got captured. That's what Trump said about McCain. Do you wonder why McCain won't support Donald Trump? Because he spent time at the Hanoi Hotel while this cocksucker Trump was taking money from his dad and getting pedicures and manicures. That's what it's about. The two men hate each other. McCain's not interested in health care. He's interested in taking the last year of his life and sticking it to Trump. That's what's happening. It's just brutal. Just brutal. At any rate, I digress.
Good thing we aren't talking politics today.
I know. It's just you can't get away. You know, you just can't get. You know, it can't get away from it. Next is the Cavaliers media day. Did you see any of LeBron's interview?
Yeah, a little bit when they were live.
All right, good. All right. Well, I did too.
Let's ask him about his future plans, because heaven forbid we focus on today and maybe the upcoming season. Let's just talk about where he's going to retire, because whatever.
I'm going to find out what Kenny Rhoda did to LeBron James that makes LeBron James hate him so much, because I think it'll be fun to find out. And I have inside sources that I can find out, because he just really put Rhoda in his place. National. Oh, yes, he has. Yeah. He's actually had the mic passed away from him, and he won't answer his questions. Yeah. Something happened.
Was it something that he said after he left, or do you think it?
Hard to say. I mean, look, the thing about being a reporter, and it's one of the reasons why I don't ever get myself too involved with organizations, is there has to be some decorum, and I have no decorum. I mean, I have no patience for people who I think are stupid, and but you got to have some decorum. And if you turn,
why I didn't make it in the journalism field.
Anything associated with me is just going to be poisonous within professional sports, because you have to go along to get along to some degree, and if you piss off the man, I mean, you're never going to get shit. You're always going to be, in the back seat. And, and it's, when I went after, Shapiro on the air, that pretty well spells the end. It's like nobody's ever going to come on Moohead Radio again for the Indians organization, just because you're not going to be treated with the utmost respect when what you're doing is fucking the team up. Obviously Rhoda said something, and I know that Rhoda is not one of the more popular broadcasters. And he's worked his way slowly down to Canton. At the rate he's going, he's gonna end up in Zanesville. He's heading south. He's gonna end up with Wiley and Marietta. He's really going south. But the thing that I want to say about today, the media day, is you asked a question, you got an answer. LeBron's staying in Cleveland. All right?
Yeah.
Of course, everyone's going to say, well, is he really telling the truth? And of course, that will carry us through the season, right? But listen to what he said. And the bottom line is this. LeBron wants to stay in Cleveland. Okay? He wants to. He said, I approach these things in a business sense. And a businessman does not show the cards in his hand. He does not do that, because that puts him in a bad bargaining position. And when you're dealing with a little midget like Dan Gilbert, who could fuck up a wet dream, the bottom line is you don't want to show your cards and let I watched, the LeBron James, the high school documentary that they did all the way back in 2009. And he loves Cleveland. The whole idea of playing for Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary was, all these teams like, the big time programs, Oak Hill Academy, the Mater Dei, the ones that are the big programs across the country. None of them are Akron. I mean, and that chip on his shoulder that they had to prove that they were the best team in the country when they were from Akron, Ohio, that weighed heavily on his growing up. And he used that as a galvanizing force with his teammates. This is what the documentary was about. I mean, we're watching it now. We realize how great LeBron has become. But the bottom line is he galvanized teammates by taking that chip that was on his shoulder and saying, something, You know, you don't have to be from Los Angeles to be great. You don't have to be from New York to be great.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he is. He's from Northeast Ohio. And he wants to stay here. His heart is here. His heart will never be anywhere else because his heart is still with his former high school teammates. In 2009, at the end of the documentary, they said, they asked him, if you could pick, 4 guys that you could have as teammates to play basketball with, who would they be? And he points to his 4 high school guys and goes, that's my team. I'd rather play basketball with them right now than with anybody else in the world. This is who he is. He wants to stay. Now, Dan Gilbert might fuck this up yet, folks. There may be some more rough road ahead of us, but LeBron James is not going to say, yep, I want to stay so bad, because then Gilbert will try to stick it to him. He knows that. He knows that he doesn't trust anybody. He's grown up in the limelight in front of people with press credentials who have badmouthed him since the time that he was 16 years old. They questioned whether he was good enough to play. The same people who are still broadcasting today were the people who said, oh, Carmelo's greater than LeBron because he hits the big shot, right? LeBron can't hit the big one. LeBron can't win the big one. Why should he trust these people? The people he trusts are his friends from high school. That's who he trusts, the people he grew up with. He trusts his mother because she raised him. And you can say what you want about Gloria James, but that's his mom. Yeah. And he trusts her. He has a small circle of people, and that circle has broadened with some of the people that he's played with who he became really close to, Damon Jones or Dwayne Wade or whomever. Over the course, it's expanded into a slightly larger circle. But he doesn't trust the press, and he's not going to put himself in a position where he's negotiating through the press. He's going to do it directly with the team through his business agents and his organization, and the deal either gets done or it doesn't. So can we drop the subject now? He wants to stay in Cleveland, okay? Now let's just put it aside and let's get back to the regular season. Got work to do. So I don't want to even talk about that anymore. I don't even want people asking me that, emailing me that. You asked and answered. You don't like the answer, don't ask the fucking question. It's that simple.
Just go, yeah, you know what? I'll probably end up in LA in about a year or two. Like, what do they expect him to say? What the fuck are they digging for anymore?
Well, I think that with LeBron, I've never found LeBron to be a liar. I think that if he really wanted out of Cleveland and they point blank said to him, are you going to stay in Cleveland? He wouldn't have said, yes, I want to stay here like he did.
Yeah.
He would, because what he said, this was an amnesty day. It was an amnesty day for Kenny Rhoda because he got to ask a question. Okay, no, I'm serious. This is the way LeBron phrased it. If you saw the beginning of his press conference, he said, we're going to answer these questions, but we're not going to keep backtracking on this. You're going to ask me about the Trump thing, fine. You're going to ask me about my free agency, fine. You're going to ask me about the Kyrie thing, fine. You're going to ask me about, my free agency thing. You're going to ask me about the team and what I think about this. I mean, these 5 things, fine, you're going to ask me. But let's do them in sequential order. And when we're done talking about one, we don't backtrack and talk about it again. But he said, any question that you ask, I'm going to answer. This was Amnesty Day. They asked him and he answered it. Now, if he ends up going to Los Angeles and the organization does nothing wrong, then he's a fucking liar. What can I tell you? But I can't. I mean, he wants to be here. Leave him alone. Let him try to win a championship again in Cleveland. Leave him the fuck alone. I mean, quit tormenting him. You're making him want to leave by doing this. I mean, it's stupid. So you have that out of the way. They asked him about Kyrie. He said, I talked to him once just to get it straight from the horse's mouth. So I wasn't hearing it from some go-between person. And he told me, and I respect what he does. It's his business, and that's it. But he also said, when Kyrie Irving was ready, I was going to hand the keys over. And that means he wasn't ready.
Yeah.
So you don't have to mince words. You don't have to read between the lines. This is plain English. LeBron James believed that Kyrie Irving wasn't ready. It will be borne out in Boston. He is not a player who will single-handedly carry the world on his shoulders, because if it gets off to a lousy start, he's in Boston, he's going to mope. And he's going to become Black Bart in a white town.
In his own media day today, someone was asking him, how do you feel about people who don't understand you, and why you left and why you wanted to get traded? How do you think that he's like, I don't even care. I don't care. he's a zombie now. Like, whoever he used to be, something has happened, and he is no longer the Kyrie that we had. And it's going to show. I mean,
but if it doesn't work out for him pretty quickly in Boston, it isn't going to be about him. It's going to be,
keep him on if he can't deliver. They're not going to keep him around like he's LeBron, because
they'll vilify him because he's black in Boston. You better believe it.
Damn right, they're horrible fucking people there.
I mean, it's a tough town to play in.
Is the color of his skin. Like, that makes some kind of difference. That's the first thing that people will go after there.
But it's a tough town, and he knew going there, Boston is a tough town, and if he doesn't get it done, we've seen when things don't go well, he mopes, he becomes sullen, and it's only then the press is going to like vultures. They're going to pick at him, and that's all ahead. That all awaits. That's what's going to happen. But they asked LeBron, so since Kyrie now is going to be the man in Boston, what advice do you have for him? He goes, I don't got no advice for him. He doesn't play with, he goes, you either with us or you're against us.
Yep.
And this is the way LeBron sees the world. You understand his loyalty to his friends and his inner circle and their loyalty to him.
Yep.
That's the way it works. And when you want out, that's fine, but there's no loyalty.
That's how most of Northeast Ohio is. You're either with us or you're against us. Once you're family takes care of family. You fuck up, you're dead. Like, my best friend of almost 20 years screwed me over, and you know what? She doesn't exist to me. I don't wish her harm. I don't talk about her to other people. She simply does not exist to me anymore. So I completely understand how LeBron can be completely free of Kyrie in his mind and in his daily life, because he just doesn't exist in him anymore. And that's his choice. What's LeBron James going to do? Beg somebody to stay in his life and on his team? Get the fuck out of here. Ain't happening. But I think that's a Cleveland thing. That's a Northeast Ohio thing. I think we all have a bit of a chip on our shoulder. I think we all grew up, watching our teams lose and being called losers, and, the mistake by the lake and all of the things that everybody else has done to shit on us our whole life. I think it's given a lot of us a chip on our shoulder. And I think it's made us who we are. And I think that's why we stick together as Clevelanders, as Northeast Ohio's. Yesterday at Junior's baseball game, I had on a red Buckeyes tank top, and you can see my Blocko. And a dad from the other team came over and he goes, "Hey, OH." I was like, "I-O." I was like, "Oh my God, you're a Buckeye." And it was like, all of a sudden, like, you're not the other team's parent. Oh my God, you're a Buckeye. We're the same, And I was like, "Where are you from?" He's, "Oh, I'm from Westerville." I was like, "Oh, you're from the country. I'm from up north on the what?" It was like really good rapport. And it was like, you find somebody who gets it, because people who aren't from where we're from just don't get it, and they never will. And that's completely okay. And that's something that Kyrie will never understand. And, maybe he will understand 10 years from now, the way LeBron understood a little bit after the fact. The way that he left was probably not the best way to do it. He was being pulled in a lot of directions. He was being guided by people he thought had his best interests at heart. He was a young kid who didn't really know any better at the time. Maybe Kyrie will come around and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I fucked up. Whatever happens." But yeah, we can't be concerned with it. If LeBron isn't concerned about it, why the hell should anybody else be? Who cares? It
was interesting, when they flashed Robinson Cano's, his career numbers.
Yeah.
As a second baseman, and the number of home runs and extra base hits and all that, and they put up historically the only other second baseman who put up better numbers than he, and one of them was Rogers Hornsby back in 1920.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered something that made me think of Kyrie Irving. And do you know who was talked about as far as that, the name Rogers Hornsby, that name came up because there haven't been a lot of second basemen who drive in a lot of runs, score a lot of runs, hit more than 20 home runs in a season, and hit 300. And it flashed back that, do you remember the Cleveland Indians second baseman whose career got off to an incredibly good start?
Are you talking like what era are we talking?
No, the 90s. We're talking about the. You're freezing.
Carlos or Robbie?
No, Carlos Baerga.
Yeah.
Right. Baerga.
I was just talking to someone the other day. He's like, "Oh, by the way, you're welcome for Carlos Baerga." And I said, "Well, then I guess I should thank you for Sandy Alomar too, if we're gonna talk 30 years ago gifts."
But Baerga was a guy who looked like a can't miss. He played hard. He hit the ball squarely. He could hit 20 home runs, drive in 100 runs. He was a guy who just had a lot of gifts, and he partied his way completely out of a career. And all that Rogers Hornsby comparison, it just went away. And I can't help but think, as fine a player as Kyrie Irving is, I would bet money it's never going to be as good for him. You know, he's talented, but there is a fatal flaw in this guy. And it will be exposed because of the circumstance. And he'll be out of Boston in the 2 years. Believe me, he'll be gone. And once that happens, he will try to join a big three somewhere, but people will never look at him the same way. And LeBron said, you know, I'm in the business of making my own guys win. I don't give advice to the other side. Next question. Do you want D Wade on your team? Yes, I do. Are you going to recruit him? I'm sure in the next couple of weeks we'll be talking, and yes, I will tell him that I want him on my team.
I'm surprised it didn't happen last year, but now, you know, maybe all of the talk with Wade, maybe that's what pushed Kyrie away. Maybe he got a little jelly. Maybe he got a little butthurt, you know, because all of a sudden Youngblood wasn't going to be his number 2 anymore. Maybe that's what pissed him off. Maybe that's why he decided to leave. Maybe, you know what I mean? Because Wade's been hinting at it for almost 2 years now.
Well, I mean, you know, my feeling is that Wade has an opportunity, a unique moment in time to play with LeBron James. And if he doesn't, then again, there's going to be this image of the league banning this, because this is what they talked about. He and Wade being able to play together. And Wade is 35 years of age. There is no real time left. And this has dovetailed into a perfect opportunity for him to be able to play with LeBron. Like LeBron joined him, he can finish his career out and join LeBron. And then we have completion to this whole circuit. If it doesn't happen, it's because it's not supposed to, folks. But LeBron isn't going to be the reason why it doesn't happen. They asked, he answered.
Yeah.
So, you know, and what do I think about lineups? You know, we just found out today, everything I was hearing from my sources said that Isaiah Thomas would be ready by the end of November. Well, now all of a sudden it's January. And remember, folks, January has 31 days in it. And January 31st is still January, and it's still damn near getting closer to the end of the season. And the hip injury that he has, he quoted again at press day that he has done nothing, since May. He has done nothing, no physical exercise, nothing.
That's even unhealthier than anything.
No, you want me to find the quote? I can find the quote for you. I mean, it's like,
was he going to wait till the season starts, get on the active roster, and then go have surgery? Is like, what's the plan? Because if he goes out and gets operated on, he doesn't get paid, right?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is to see if they have. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. And I don't care if we go a little bit over the top of the hour because I'm on a roll here. All right. Physically, I'm in a good place. This is Isaiah Thomas. I'm making progress every day. I'm getting stronger. These last 3 weeks, I've been able to be with this training staff 6 days a week and focused on getting my strength back in that muscle. He's not saying what muscle he's talking about, right? Since the end of May, I haven't done anything. So the focus now is getting the inflammation out of my hip and getting it back to where it was. Each day is better than the previous day. I'm able to get on the court and move around a little bit. Does this sound like a player who Danny Ainge was certain was going to contribute to the Celtics? Or do you think little Danny Ainge crybaby fuck is a liar? Do you realize that since he's come to Cleveland, he says, again, I've been working with this training staff 6 days a week. Well, what was he doing in Boston? Nothing. Nothing since May.
What's he doing now? I mean, he's not going to go into detail. It's probably passive range of motion and massage therapy and.
No, he's actually I did read somewhere that he was doing. Let me see. I'm not seeing it in the article, but they were saying that he's doing some work. But but it's not running and cutting or anything like that, for God's sakes. But the fact that he's still getting the inflammation out of the hip, and it's been since May, and he's done nothing. Figure it out: June, July, August, September. It's been 4 months, and he has not been able to get the inflammation out of his hip in 4 months. And he was the best player on the team, and you have to assume that the Boston team was trying to get him to do something. However, the inflammation was so bad in his hip that he couldn't. Now it's January. So it could be January the 1st. It could be January the 31st, but I'm calling bullshit again because, like I said initially, there's no way this guy is going to be playing in November. And now we find out that he has done nothing and that he's basically atrophied since May.
I can imagine if I just didn't do anything every day, my whole body would lock up. Oh, please be a telemarketer. Please be a telemarketer.
No, it's a friend of mine. I'll have to, talk to him once I'm off the air. The telemarketer, yeah.
Hello? Is this DirecTV? No, I don't have. What is a satellite? I thought this was a song by the Dave Matthews Band.
So he may think that physically he's in a good place. He's making progress and he's getting stronger. But the bottom line is he's done nothing since May. And, for all the talk and the bullshit, they're hoping that he's going to be around for the playoffs. They got rid of Kyrie Irving for nothing, basically for Jay Crowder and a 2-month rental. That's the bottom line of this. So you can take it for what it's worth. And the Cavs might have been happy just getting rid of Kyrie Irving. Because when he was pressed, LeBron, they said, have you talked to Kyrie since? He goes, no. And they said, well, did you talk to him the last time you spoke to him about the wisdom of this decision? And he started laughing and goes, hey, you guys know Kyrie. And he laughed it off and said, next question. Kyrie Irving is a knucklehead. Kyrie Irving is controlled by knuckleheads. His stupid bastard father, Drederick. They're stupid people. The saddest thing is when you're a remarkable talent born into a family of leeches. That's the worst thing that can happen, Mm-hmm. And that's what's happened to Kyrie Irving. He's surrounded by leeches. His father, that was my favorite joke of all time. I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. I remember the punchline, and it was like, what do Yoko Ono and like groundhogs have in common?
What?
They both survive on dead beetles.
Oh,
And there you have it. This is, Drederick couldn't be good enough. I mean, do you know that they asked Kyrie Irving who his favorite basketball players was, and he said Drederick, and then Kobe Bryant. That's what he said. I mean, he's owned. I mean, it's unhealthy. The whole situation's unhealthy, and he's turned into Drederick. Nobody could deal with him in the organization. I think the organization wanted to get him the fuck out. I think that he's poison. I think it's just really gone too far down the road, and we just kind of took what we could get to become as good a team as we could be this year, knowing it would be without him. I believe that's what happened. So I don't know. Yeah, but I find Media Day to be interesting for what's not said, but this time what was said. And I'm sure Isaiah Thomas wants to get out on the floor and play, but he's a long ways away from that. And, basketball conditioning is not easy,
Yeah.
It's, I'm happy right now because I've had to sit down the whole summer. Being able to be around the training staff has been great for me. Like he wasn't in Boston. Very strange. All of this strikes me as very strange. And one Indians thing before we go. One Indians thing. And I'll let you yell and scream about it.
Oh boy. Okay.
Is there any possible way that Corey Kluber is not the Cy Young Award winner? And to go one step further, if you look at the last several years of baseball, is there any way to deny that he is the best pitcher in Major League Baseball? Go.
Unfortunately, there is a way to say that he won't win the Cy Young, and that's simply because of the time that he missed. I remember in 1994, when Omar got taken out by Ivan Rodriguez at second base, trying to break up a double play, he blew out his MCL, and he was out for about 6 weeks. And his fielding percentage was .997. But it took him out of the running for the Gold Glove, and it took him out of the running for all of the defensive awards because he just barely played enough games, and he missed it by like 2 or 3 games. So he actually didn't qualify. And I can see the Writers Association, the voters, using that time that he was gone against Kluber and giving it to Sale, even though who's going to be in the postseason. That Kluber is dominating. I mean, the numbers he's putting up, strikeouts to innings pitched, everything that he's doing is outrageous, but they will find a way to not give it to him. I've already made peace with that.
Well, what's amazing? The argument of the time that he missed, okay?
Yeah.
Talking about the greatest red herring of all. Do you realize that Chris Sale, who's the only other person who could win this award, correct?
Yes.
Has pitched 209 innings this year. And that Kluber has pitched 198 innings. That, if you look at it, is 11 innings difference. Okay?
And look at how many complete games Kluber's put up.
But he has more wins.
Yes.
I mean, what is the deal here? He's only given up 135 hits and 198 innings. I mean, he doesn't walk people. I mean, he strikes out people. Now, Chris Sale has 300 strikeouts this year, all right? Kluber has 262. But you look at Kluber, and he had a difficult 2015, all right? But if you look at his numbers from 13 basically is where it all starts. When he was 11-5, 18-9, then he had a 9-16 year, but he still had a 3.49 earned run average. Then he's 18-9. Now he's 18-4. Look, I'm sorry. I mean, there is not any way in God's creation. I mean, what I think is going to happen is that Kluber will win the Cy Young Award and that Altuve will win the MVP and Jose Ramirez will continue trudging on with a chip on his shoulder, which is good for us.
I completely agree.
I think that's what we want in essence, because we want that strutting little guy to be as angry and as focused as he can be, because he can be a one-man wrecking crew. And, again, his name is coming up for conversation. He's one home run away from 30. You don't see, an infield that is hitting two guys, a shortstop and a second baseman, who hit 30 home runs each. You don't see this. It's a rarity in Major League Baseball to see something like this. And it's a real treat watching it. But I sure hope. I mean, Ramirez is not, Ramirez is the kind of guy that they'll say, he might be a flash in the pan. If he's so good, he'll have a chance to win another MVP some other year. And look, Altuve's a fine player. I mean, you can't really argue with the fact that he's the best hitter in the game. Again, if you're just a statistical analysis, he's the best hitter in the game. So but I mean, statistically, Chris Sale, he has fewer wins. He has a higher earned run average. All he's done is he struck out more guys. That's it. And his second half of the season, he's gotten weaker, and Kluber's gotten stronger. And down in the stretch drive, in the most important time of the season, Kluber has been absolute shutdown. I mean, oh, your mic is off, hon. Your mic's off. You're muted.
I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah,
I was telling Junior to turn this movie down.
Yeah.
These are guys who will leave a deserving player out of a Hall of Fame because of something that happened 25 years ago, and they didn't like the way they looked at him sideways, and therefore they don't vote for him. These are guys who have given up MVP votes because they were rude in the press conference one time. These guys are the guys who do the voting. Really, not the best choice in my opinion sometimes, because they vote and they judge with things that they shouldn't be. They should be able to look at it from a, I don't want to say like objective, subjective kind of thing, but they need to look at it as a numbers thing. And, they need to look at what they're doing instead of like, well, he deserves it. Well, I'm going to vote for Sale. That's how they end up making their votes. And it's really pretty shitty when you think about it.
But my feeling is about Cy Young Awards is maybe it's a little different than other, MVP is tough because there's a hurdle.
Like when Mike Trout was winning it every year in a row, there was really nobody else doing anything that he was doing. He was so young.
I think once you've won one, you've earned a pedigree, and it's easier to win a second one. It's just like LeBron James winning an MVP and winning an MVP and winning an MVP. I mean, it's the first one that's the hard one because, Mom, what have you done? What have you accomplished? And what has your team accomplished? And all that. Kluber's already won one. And I think he's of the pedigree, and it's going to be easier for him. The harder thing is for a guy like Jose Ramirez to win one MVP, to get that first one. It's a hard thing, even though I think anybody who's watched the Indians all year would say that he has consistently been our best player. Absolutely. He has been the heart and soul and the leader of the team. And Lindor is immensely talented and got off to a horrible start. But he's had a great year when everything is, wound up.
Setting records too.
Yeah. I mean, but I think Altuve, when you start looking at his numbers, that you establish a pedigree. And once you have that pedigree, it's easier for people to vote for you. I think Kluber wins the Cy Young Award. And I just don't think that anybody could deny him. He's just been, I mean, it is, even when he doesn't have his good stuff, he's getting people out. He's finding a way. And when he has his good stuff, God help your soul. God help your soul. I mean, it's as dominating as, you know, as any pitcher that you would remember historically, maybe with the exception of Drysdale's scoreless innings and, you know, maybe Maddox and his years of domination.
He reminds me a lot of
Koufax.
Maddox and the Hershiser when they were just that silent, dominant type that would just go out there and shut
Hand on the
down.
ball. Hand on the ball.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, and when you hand him the ball, you know that he is going to give you everything that he's got, and he's going to get through as many innings as need be. And if you give him a lead, you see him bear down.
Yeah,
You
even
can-
that one game where he ended up pitching the complete game and it was 1-0 and they came back in the bottom of the ninth to give him the win. I mean, you'd rather stick with him through 118 pitches or whatever it ended up being through 9 innings because you're down 1-0 in hopes that your offense is going to pick him up rather than just hand the game off like it's some kind of loss and give it to the bullpen.
I mean, how many times have you seen the team, and historically they haven't hit for Kluber over the years, right?
yeah.
How many times have you seen this year the team get a couple of runs for Kluber and the next inning is just a shutdown inning? I mean, like an 8-pitch, 9-pitch shutdown inning. I mean, he gets ahead, and you saw it in this last game he pitched. They were up 2-0, and then he gives up the dinger to Gamble, and it's like 2-2. And immediately, man, Ramirez hits a home run the next inning, and bang, they're back up 3-2. And then the son of a bitch comes back out, and you can't get dick off him. I mean, he clings to leads, you know. He just is a shutdown guy. And that's why
his shit. It's not like he starts throwing meatballs or can't find the plate. You know, it's not like he starts, you know, going down in the count and loads up the bases. It's just he's in control all the time.
He thinks. And I remember the one game where he gave up early runs on home runs. I forget who it was against. Maybe it was the Tigers, who just came out swinging and guessing fastball. And when he realized what they were doing, he just started throwing 70% sliders and just wiped them out for the rest of the game. I mean, he is constantly like adjusting to things, and he's just a thoughtful pitcher. It's more than just his stuff. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, just raw stuff. We're talking about, it's like a fighter like Muhammad Ali, who, when he lost a lot of his skills, still strategically knew how to win fights and figured out a way to win when he, you know, if he had to compact 1 minute out of 3 rounds to fight where he'd score more than the opponent and he would get the round, he would figure out methodologically how to win. That's what Kluber is. He's a guy who sees what they're trying to do against him and he negates it. It's remarkable to watch.
It is so fun to watch. He is. I love that they call him Kluber. He is. He's like a machine. He's a fucking robot. He goes out there and he just annihilates everything in his path, and I love it.
All right, I gotta get out of
putting Clevenger in the bullpen.
I don't like this. I don't, you know, I'm sick of the Tomlin thing. I'm sick of
bullpen. Exactly. Like, you know, okay, I see the point that you can use Clevenger in successive nights and you can use him for several more innings than one start, but I don't think it's worth giving up that spot in the rotation, especially when it's boiling down to Tomlin. You need a lot. No. You need something way more dependable in your starting. What is it going to be, like a 3-man? Is it going to be 4? They can't use Salazar.
No, it's going to be the little cowboy. It's always the little cowboy. And look, I understand. The guy is Rudy. Okay, he throws 87 miles an hour, and he's Rudy. But you know, I don't want fucking Rudy, you know, Rudiger on the mound in significant playoff games when the guy gives up more, you know, as many hits as innings and gives up gopher balls. You know, and the other thing with him is every year it's the same pattern. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they have to rest him or he gets hurt and it's his arm that fades. And when he comes back afterwards, he's good. But then his arm starts to go noodle again on him. It's the same thing every year. And he'll get off to a really good start, and then all of a sudden he can't win, and his arm goes dead, and they have to put him on the DL for a reason. I don't feel good about him. He's not reliable. And Clevenger has proven that, granted,
he 6 innings, and once he's lost,
he's not refined.
Yeah,
he's not refined, but he has swing and miss stuff. That's the thing that it's like Salazar can't throw strikes. Clevenger throws too many pitches, but he has true swing and miss stuff. Tomlin, pitch to contact, and if the ball is thigh high or up, it's out of the ballpark. You're going to be playing teams that have remarkable power statistics with a juiced baseball. I don't like fly ball pitchers on my roster in postseason when the ball's juiced, and it clearly is.
Even Verlander admitted it publicly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows it is. So why a fly ball pitcher? I got no idea. I mean, it would be one thing if he were a sinker ball pitcher. Then I say, okay, they're going to beat the ball into the ground, but that's not it. He's not a ground ball pitcher, and he gives up a lot of hits. And when you have men on base, no, he doesn't walk them. They hit their way on, and he makes one mistake. It can be a 3-run mistake, and it has happened a number of times earlier this year. I just don't get it, and it's more of that. It's the one thing, and I can't bitch about Francona. We have great record. He keeps bringing us to where he's bringing us, but that seems to be a blind spot with him. He just loves the vets, and he won't let go.
That's my guy. I'm going with my guy.
Yeah, I know. And meanwhile, Clevenger is not a relief pitcher. He doesn't come out of the bullpen. And he's not the kind of pitcher that I would want with men in scoring position, because his control is not fine. If he comes in a crowded base situation, man, and he falls behind in the count, you look at Clevenger's statistics, he gives up a fair number of home runs because he's pitching behind in the count to guys. That's not the makings of a relief pitcher. It's why Salazar could never survive in the bullpen. You can't come into a game. The guys who do well are the Joe Smiths of the world, because they don't walk people. They don't give away shit. He's a sinker ball pitcher, got to hit your way on. At least he's got that going for him. Or you got Andrew Miller, who's just flat out swing and miss guy when he's healthy. Or you have a Cody Allen that when he's throwing his curveball for strikes, he's a shutdown closer. Clevenger out of the bullpen.
Well, he needs that. He needs those innings. He needs to get there, because when he's 40, 50 pitches in is when he's.
Tomlin can come in and throw strikes. I mean, if you're in a situation where you need 3 innings because you're in a slugfest in the playoffs, put Tomlin in the game. I mean, if it's a 6-6 and your starter's been knocked out early, and he's a guy who'll throw 3-4 innings for you and save your ass. But Clevenger, there's no proof that he could come in and just start throwing strikes from a cold situation of warming up. He's had a mental set point that he's a starting pitcher, and you can't keep confusing these guys. It's just not the best decision I've seen. And I don't think that it's a good decision settling on Gio Urshela as your regular third baseman. I just hope it's because Yandy's fingers hurt, because the team was winning the long winning streak with Diaz at third base, and Urshela is your true utility infielder. He's a guy who could play third, short, and even second. He's a great glove. He fucking can't hit. He's a punch and Judy hitter.
Yeah, his defense is amazing, and he's
remarkable.
Saved some really killer plays over the streak, but that bat just isn't.
But he's better than Michael Martinez ever was defensively. He's better than Gonzalez is defensively. I mean, the fact of the matter,
Martinez isn't on the roster. Thankfully.
Yeah, but my belief is that you got to put him there. But they're talking him up like he's going to be the starting third baseman. And Yandy Diaz has, he made one bad throw at third base. He hasn't played a bad third base, and he gets on base. I don't get it. And he makes those people ahead of him or behind him better hitters because he's on base, and gives these people an excuse not to swing for the fences all the time. So, again, we'll see what happens. But it seems like the young guys get fucked, and Urshela is not a starting third baseman in the major leagues. He's not. He's a great glove, and he fits the exact profile of the perfect utility infielder, the perfect late inning defensive replacement. Perfect.
Yeah. Is there a possibility we might expand the shows throughout the week during the playoffs?
We'll see. We'll see how I feel. Sitting for long periods of time.
I could talk baseball, but even if it's a little bit, I would be so excited.
Let's see what I can come up with. It's 7:30. I got to get out of here and eat dinner.
All right. Good show, man.
Oh, wait. See, I got a metal piece in there from. I know. Is that awesome? Yeah.
No.
Implant City.
That hurts me to look at.
Move. They jammed a fucking screw in my bone.
Oh, stop. I'm going to pass out. That's the one thing I could never do was the screws and the bones and all of that. I just passed out instantly in nursing school, in the hospitals, in the ORs. I passed out every time I ever saw metal going into a bone or the drills. Nope, can't do it.
Well, I got to go, but I wanted to congratulate you that you made it through 90 minutes. Way to go.
Thanks. And I even did prep, and I did all sorts of, pulling stats out of my butt. Like Amsterdam thought I prepared that little Omar stat. No, those things.
Well, let's hope that's all that's coming out of your butt, okay?
Yeah, for now, right?
We'll see you again on Friday.
Friday it is. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. We'll be back again, talk about the Battle of Ohio. 2 0-3 pathetic teams in which the Browns will lose and go 0-4, and the Bengals will get their first win, and A.J. Green will have 150 yards of receiving. We'll see you on Friday. Bye.